how would you respond to the common view that that he was a good religious teacher, but nothing more?
Well, I say he was a good religious teacher. That is to say, when the early Christian church confessed that he was raised from the dead, they did not then discard the Gospels, which contained the bulk of that teaching. I would say the assessment of Jesus as a good religious teacher founders on the historical evidence. Namely, it cannot explain his crucifixion, and this has always been said. It doesn't explain how he gets crucified as King of the Jews. It cannot explain the rise of the early church. For example, John the Baptist is reported by the first century author Josephus to be something of a prophet who was hailed by the people. He was put to death, and there is no movement today. There actually is a sort of little movement here and there that follows John, but it doesn't have he doesn't gain a following like Jesus. There's something more to Jesus that explains what I called his afterlife. A second point about the great moral teacher. My fear, and this may be, again, that particular concern, that tends in some ways to cut him off, I think, from his Jewish heritage, because usually what is held up as what is great about Jesus' moral teaching tends to be what is more universally or abstracted. And in fact, if you read the Gospels, he spends a lot of time discussing with the Pharisees about hand washing, which were purity regulations that the Pharisees developed in the first century, or about tithing, mint and dill and cumin, what you can do on the Sabbath, what if you do an animal falls into a pit. All this is current in his day. And most of the discussion about Jesus as a great moral teacher runs the risk of losing his historical setting. And then I guess the final thing I would say is, yes, he teaches in the Gospels, but there's a lot of other stuff in the Gospels which people who make Jesus a great moral teacher often leave out. If you've ever seen, for example, Thomas Jefferson's New Testament with its, everything that's a miracle or prophecy of judgment, or all that has to go in order to get Jesus the great moral teacher. But that's not what makes Jesus who Jesus is. So I don't think we have to deny that he was a teacher who put love of God, love of neighbor as a principle. The New Testament makes love the central thing. They get that from Jesus, I think. I just don't think it will explain historically the Christian movement, for example, or the reaction to Jesus, or that it will keep him in his historical context, which I believe to be crucial to understanding him.
Yeah, I think that's all correct. I would just urge us to not think of the sacred as the good. In other words, charismatic religious teachers have a certain power or energy or charisma to them, and it's not simply a function of moral teachings. Yep. The sacred is not the good. In fact, sometimes the sacred kills you. The sacred is the powerful, it's the energetic, it's what changes you, what transforms you, and that isn't just about being a good boy or good girl.
For more information about the Veritas Forum, including additional recordings and a calendar of upcoming events, please visit our website at veritas.org.